What is up, everybody? We got a great show today. We're super excited to chat with all of you. Finale's come and gone. This show's over. It's done. For better, for worse, it's all in the rear view. I had a great time. I'm very excited to dive into it with this slightly smaller than usual, but high quality panel. Top talent assembled here today. As you can see to my left and my right, I've got Eric B. and Andy Mason. How the heck are you guys?
Hi, I'm good.
Doing great. Glad to be here. Glad to talk to you
Excellent
about this
hosting
stuff.
by me, to like tell both of you to talk at the same time. That's how we do it here. We are
We're just keeping it au
professionals.
naturel. That's fine.
Top men. That is exactly right. Okay, so let's dive into this straight out the gate. We're gonna do spoilers. This is spoilers. It's been spoilers. It's been a week. Like, come on, but we're not gonna. I love this show. I think it was freaking awesome. Again, it left me wanting a lot more, for sure. And I think I would guess that that's a theme given the vibes from the internet. But I'll let you guys speak for yourselves. I will start with you, Andy. What were your thoughts on the finale, broad strokes, and then we'll dive into the weeds.
Yeah, I think I'm in general agreement that I wish there was more. The finale did leave me also with questions, wanting more, wanting just season two expeditiously. But we'll see what they've got in store for us. I overall enjoyed the finale.
And we'll do a season breakdown generally, but just again, super high level. How does this show stack up against other live action shows that Star Wars has put out in your mind?
Ooh, it's I've got to think of how many live action Star Wars shows I've watched. I haven't seen all of them just yet. Um, but I did enjoy it. I'd say I liked it more than Mando season three, and I liked Mando season three a lot. Yeah, not my absolute favorite, um, like a Mando season one, but I did enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Eric, it's all the same questions to you, brother. First of all, welcome back to the pod. It's great to have you on program. We missed you. And
Missed you
man,
all too.
welcome.
Glad to be back.
Yeah, well, thank you. We kept it warm for you, but yeah, we're glad you're back. So what'd you think of the episode? And then same question I asked Andy: how does this whole Bad Bear rank for you relative to all the other? We'll just keep it to live action shows.
Okay, great. Yeah. I love the episode. Like Andy and like you, I think it was very ended at the end and had a lot of questions, a lot of things that I wish they would have crammed into a few more minutes. I was concerned about the runtime on the episode and what that would mean for pacing, what that would mean for story development or culmination, and what they would leave out. I was happy to say I thought that the pacing was great. I mean, I was engaged and invested from beginning to end, and I didn't think anything was felt too rushed or what they did cover. I felt they covered in sufficient detail, at least for my own personal appetite there. But certainly at the end, I thought that there was just a lot of things that left me wanting more and looking forward to season two, and really not knowing what direction it could go in season two. I mean, I thought there were probably two or three
Yeah.
different paths they could pursue coming out of the season finale. And so again, it just kind of makes your imagination run wild. Um, I was, with all that said, very positive. I was very conflicted with one particular element of the episode, and we'll cover that in a little more detail after
Yeah,
the kind of the
yeah.
general
Let's dive
intros.
in. Let's
Um,
dive in. Yeah, later. But
yeah, I mean, again, that's not necessarily a criticism. It's just what they did and how they did it kind of evoked a strong emotional response in me, and so happy to share that with you a little bit. But I would say the Ahsoka series, at least season one, probably my third favorite
oh,
live
okay.
action series. Andor being number one with the Mandalorian a close second. And that's not meant in any way to kind of minimize or diminish, what's been accomplished. And the great entertainment and education, I might add. That this series particularly did for the Star Wars universe, because I think it bound together so many different things more so than some of the other series, which is a credit to the writing and the kind of the thought behind doing an Ahsoka series. So
Yeah.
really grateful to that, grateful to the creators for that. To see a lot of disparate things kind of tied together now more closely than before. But I would say, yeah, probably third overall. And then, again, I'll just say it one more time. I don't want that in any way to um, lead anyone to believe that I didn't have a very positive response and affinity for the series as a whole.
Yeah, and I think, I'm assuming that you're aggregating all the seasons of the shows, whereas, I think like I take more of Andy's thing of like, if we're ranking these season to season, I would bet this is a lot higher than season 3 of Mando, maybe even season 2 of Mando for some people. I know for me, um, you know, I would rank it second. I think it surpasses all the seasons of Mando for me personally, just given all the things we got to see, and of course having Thrawn back and Anakin and a lot of those things. But again, as we've all discussed at length, there are moments of all these shows that are just simply transcendent, and rise far above the cumulative score, as it were. But yeah, so there's a lot in here I want to get through. Um, there's a lot to discuss. So let's try to sort of walk through it chronologically and talk about the higher points and the things that we wanted to discuss. Again, I don't have show notes for this one. We're just going to walk through, and so anybody that has anything that I seem to have walked past, just let me know, and we'll go back and discuss it. But first, the episode, it opens up. You've got the Night Sisters and everything. These preparations are coming to fruition. Gosh, there's just so much. I'm trying to remember how it actually opens, given it's been a minute. There's so much that happens later. But some of the earlier moments in the episode, involving the Night Sisters and Morgan and those ceremonies, Andy being the resident Clone Wars head, and Dathomir Stan. What were your thoughts on Morgan in this episode, and some of the things with the Night Sisters and that cargo that they discussed, and all that angle?
Yeah, it's really, really exciting stuff. I think the first thing I said in the Discord, like as soon as it happened in the episode, was the Blade of Talzin, and I'm Mother Talzin. I'm flooded with all these memories from the Clone Wars and Mother Talzin's influence and ultimately her fate.
And
So
that
I was
dumbass
intrigued.
episode with Jar Jar Binks too. Like, I was not
Yeah,
expecting such a big thing to come from such a seemingly silly episode. That was really, really cool.
yeah, yeah. Cool is one word for it. I don't know. I wasn't the
What's your
biggest
word?
fan of um maybe it was a bummer for me. It's not how I imagined her story ending, and not necessarily where I wanted it to go, but it was cool to bring her back in with a blade that I don't think has been referenced in canon, has it? The Blade of Talzin?
Not that I know of. I didn't know it had that name. Again, that's this. I assume that's the sword she was using when she fought Mace Windu in that episode. Um, but
Maybe.
um, but
Correct. It was.
Okay,
It
yeah, yeah.
was.
But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm getting at, is like just a little throwaway thing from a very throwaway episode, or at least, again, I might be being too reductive, but you get the point. That was an unexpected Easter egg and connection to have such relevance to this plot. I've derailed you. Please continue on with what you appreciated about the Night Sisters.
Oh no, it was awesome to see. And to see her, Morgan wield the blade later in the episode was some of my favorite, maybe scenes in the whole season. She looked so cool and was so driven. Um, Fascinated to see where we go with this cargo plot line. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I'm calling an audible. I said chronologic. I'm going to throw all that out the window. I want to go character by character. It makes more sense to me in this moment. Again, we're live. We're having fun. So let's stay with the Dathomir thing, and let's discuss that, as to as much length as you'd like, Andy, please.
Yeah, I mean, not much else to say. I thought she looked really badass. Some of the fighting in this episode, kind of, I was I wasn't totally sold on it. It didn't impress me at moments, and then there were some moments when I was blown away, including Elspeth with this blade. So,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah,
that's the
cool.
first thing that comes to mind for me.
That fight scene blew my mind.
Yeah.
I was like really hoping that wasn't one you didn't connect with. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna be able to validate that take, but yeah, that was awesome. And I heard that she's the goddaughter of Bruce Lee, and just sort of seeing just her martial artistry was amazing. That some of the choreography
Yep.
there was top tier. Um, I have some thoughts about Dathomir and the Night Sisters a bit later. But Eric, given all of that, what were your thoughts on Morgan, the Night Sisters, and the Dathomir angle of this finale?
Morgan, Morgan, Morgan. I thought she was awesome. I thought they did her dirty at the end. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I had a sense before it happened that Thrawn was going to sacrifice her, and I regretted it, and I was saddened that that's what happened. But just I think her willingness for self sacrifice, um, amongst a bunch of characters who are more selfish, her selflessness really kind of shone through. And even though she's considered one of the villains of the series, there's an honor to her that I thought that the episode really kind of brought out at the end. And she went down like a champ. She went down like a warrior, and she went down like a night sister. To the end. And yeah, her fight sequence with Ahsoka was just fantastic. I mean, I think it was right up for me. It was right up there, at least in the series, with the Ahsoka Anakin lightsaber sequence in the World Between Worlds, when it was just very raw, very aggressive, very powerful, and you could tell that she was bringing everything there. So, um, I loved Morgan's character. I was sad to see her end. And the whole Night Sisters. I like the Night Sisters quite frankly, and I like the whole Dathomir storyline that was in the Clone Wars animated series. And so to see them live action, I thought was very well done. I thought it was very, very believable. Um, and I thought that was a high point of the series, as a whole. Now, why Thrawn is so focused on Dathomir, and why they wind up there at the end of the episode, I think is one of those things that I would love to know more about sooner rather than later, but we'll have to wait for that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but but I think as a whole, I thought Morgan's character really was just a fantastic. This whole series had a lot of fantastic supporting characters,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Morgan was top. I mean, she was top notch, and yeah,
So I'm
I was
curious,
very happy.
when you say that they did her dirty, do you mean simply that you were sad that she left, and sad that she's gone, and you wanted more of her? Because, or do you feel that she was like treated with some sort of disrespect at the end? Are you just kind of saying that just because she's gone, or do you actually, are
No,
you frustrated?
no. When I was watching it, um, it seemed like when they awarded her the Shadow Vision,
Hmm.
it came across as a reward. But as the storyline developed, and I could anticipate where it was going, I wonder if they just didn't give her. I wonder if it was less a reward and more of them manipulating and using her, anticipating that they would have to sacrifice her, and they needed time, and the only way that she was going to afford them the most amount of time was to have those powers, or have that magical um, strength somewhere within her, around her. Would she have been able to yield the blade of Talzin if she wasn't, with whatever they call the
Right.
shadow essence, right? So,
Sister of Shadow or
um,
something like that. Yeah.
yeah. So I just, again, and again, maybe it's just the glass half empty side of me that comes out from time to time. but again, when I thought that they did her dirty, like, I don't know if they were as honorable with her, with things that they did to her and for her, as she was with them. And that's,
Oh,
and
you're saying the
Yeah.
characters, not the showrunners. Yeah, okay, I
yeah,
understand
no, the
completely.
characters, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
got it, okay, 100%, yeah.
yeah, no, Thrawn and the 3 Night Sisters. Again, I don't know if they weren't just continuing to use her. Like, I
Mhm.
don't really think the 3 Night Sisters really wanted a 4th Night Sister to be,
Well, so there's a few things there. The first is, the thing that makes Thrawn unique is that he is not flippant with his resources, right? He is not. He doesn't feel like this love and connection to his resources, but he very much like does not throw away assets. And so, you noticed with the Death Troopers and all that, like these made sure they were volunteers and this, that, and the third. Very, very different than standard Imperial practice. One of the other things I wanted to point out is when he implies that she has to make that sacrifice, for the Empire is what he says, and then after everyone's gone, she whispers for Dathomir, right? So clearly, there's some rifts starting there, and their visions, they're allies of convenience less than less than true nature, I think. And the other thing is a throwaway line from Ezra that when he's talking and when Ahsoka's trying to get intel, said Thrawn found the temple, Thrawn woke up the witches, and so on and so forth. And it's kind of a throwaway line. A lot of people have been pointing out, though, we've always been assuming that it's just dead people in those caskets in the catacombs. But what if it's cryogenically frozen hibernation pods of other Night Sisters, right? Like they're actually alive and fully capable. That would be quite a formidable army that Thrawn would have access to, and it would harken back to some of the stuff from the Legends Thrawn trilogy of him coming upon some kind of an army, be it via cloning or anything like that. What do you guys think about that? And do you think that's what
God,
we're
Ed,
seeing there? I'll start with you,
I
Eric.
hope that's the case because I just if I had one detractor for the episode, it was I just could not get into The Walking Dead. I just I mean I hope that they're cryogenically frozen live Dathomiri Night Sisters and not just an art. It's not just going to become an army of the dead. And I know that's something that's been throughout the Clone Wars animated series. You've
Hmm.
seen it several times. And it's been in the books, and so it's not something that just kind of they created out of thin air, or maybe because it's it's a popular genre in the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years or so, maybe a little bit longer with the Walking Dead series. But I really hope that what you're theorizing is the case, and not more zombies. I
Yeah,
don't need
sure.
I don't need more zombies. I don't want more zombies. Was kind of hoping that the live action stuff would resist that, but it made sense for what they were doing in this particular series, where they developed it. So those are my thoughts.
Well, so let's dive into the zombie angle now. Andy, what were your thoughts on the sort of reanimation of those night troopers, and then seeing the death troopers later on, given that they been dead, you know what I mean? Like they were reanimated a while ago, it would appear. What are your thoughts on all of this as a concept, and then just kind of general execution of it?
Yeah, I'm not super against it as a concept. I can get behind it. I do think the execution for me, they didn't seem scary enough, and maybe that's just my take. They didn't creep me out that much. They didn't spook me that much. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it felt like they should have leaned into that more. Um,
Mm.
seeing that that's what they were going for, but it didn't land super great with me. Even when we have the big fight and they down all these enemies and then they come back, it just felt kind of silly to me instead of frightening.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I think especially like I think it has to do with who the night troopers were fighting, right? Like if you're putting that sort of thing against like a Han Solo or somebody that isn't a Jedi, I think that shit's terrifying. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you guys, but if I just have a blaster and they're pretty impervious to blasters, you know, that changes the whole dynamic. But you're right, it was a little less than terrifying. The Death Troopers were a little bit more frightening, just given their size and strength. But I thought it was funny because the Night Troopers, you know, initially we were all theorizing, oh my God, that's like the Night Troopers from Death Troopers book, and you know, I wonder if that's connected. And then you know, it turned out that they weren't zombies last week, and it's like, okay, all right, that makes sense. And then they are reanimated, and then you know, you have the Death Troopers from canon that everybody tied back to the book initially from Rogue One. Now the Death Troopers from canon are like the Death Troopers from Legends, and it just all kind of, they were all on the same stage, and it was just really really funny to see all interpretations of the term Death Trooper were all in one place. I
Yeah.
kind of had a laugh about that.
Well, I may have looked at it wrong, but like in you know, when they're being reanimated and we see that first fight sequence with the reanimated night troopers against, you know, Ahsoka and Sabine and Ezra, you know, they're moving slow. They're moving like you would think that a zombie would, but then like a few minutes later, they're running up the stairs after him, and I was like, okay, what are we doing? What are we doing with this? So, I mean, again, I just didn't like. I think I share Andy. I don't think I could say it any better than what Andy put out there. I think I share her sentiments exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's like we said earlier that this is in canon. It's been seen. There's precedent for it. Dathomiri reanimation is in Clone Wars, Fallen Order. You know, like just it's even there's even ghosts in Rebels, right? When they go to Maul's hideout. So, you know, it's in all kinds of mediums. But yeah, if it doesn't land with you, it doesn't land. So fair enough. Um, I I liked it well enough. I enjoyed it, but again, I'm generally you know, more accepting of some things, so fair enough. Let's move now to our heroes. Let's focus on what we thought of Ezra in this episode, and then Hu Yang, and their kind of discussions and dynamic. We got some pretty neat exposition. We learned some things. Eric, as the resident Hu Yang stan, the president of that fan club, I'll let you take the lead. What'd you think of Hu Yang and the lightsaber construction scene with Ezra?
Oh, I was so taken with it. You know, I went back, and that's one of my, you know, top 10 favorite episodes of the Clone Wars series is when we first meet Hu Yang, and he's taking the younglings to Ilum to get their crystals, and they're, you know, he's giving them lessons about constructing the lightsabers, and you see all of his appendages in his workshop moving at the same time, finding all of the different components. So to see that in live action, you know, obviously I love David Tennant's. I love his wit that he brings to the character, just like Anthony Daniels brings a character to C-3PO. I think David Tennant has done that with Hu Yang. Um, and I just felt I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't see it coming, but I was like really touched that Hu Yang had kept a second emitter that Caleb Doom had put together, and he's giving it to his Padawan. I mean, you know, I wasn't, you know, the Kanan Jarrus thing maybe isn't, you know, that high on my list, but like that definitely pulled at my heartstrings. Um, and you know, just something as simple as when they run off to you know go um, you know attack Thrawn, if you will, and he looks at them
Mm-hmm.
and he says, "May the Force be with you." I mean that like that you know, I think Hu Yang has just had so many moments where he just hits you right in the feels.
Yeah.
Gives you solid ground to stand on when you talk when you know I guess not the old Republic, but the former Republic and the Jedi Order are talked to and referred to. He really is a pillar of um, kind of consistency and strength from that old storyline.
Yeah, he's like
Where
25,000 years old. It's crazy.
Yeah. So, yep. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of it. Just this week, I ordered the 6-inch Black Series figure and the three and three
Hey.
quarter inch vintage collection figure for him. So I'm excited to get those like sometime next year. But big fan of Hu Yang for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It was awesome. I did love the little throwaway gag there talking about how the emitter made the blade too narrow, you know, probably calling out Rebels for the style choices there of the lightsabers. That was funny. Um, your standum has been acknowledged. Andy, you're a big fan of Ezra. So what did you think of Ezra in this episode and that lightsaber that he built?
I think Ezra's been just lovely in the show, and this episode was no different. I loved his quips with Sabine, like we've seen before. Those continued and brought joy to my heart. Just a mention of Kanan and Jarrus made my little heart flutter, made me really happy. Yeah, I wore my Canera shirt.
Nice.
Ah! um, but yeah, not a lot of thoughts other than that. Ezra made me very happy. Now, the plot with Sabine, on the other hand, Ed, I'm gonna turn it to you. What are your thoughts?
The plot with Sabine. Okay, so what exactly are you? What angle are you taking there? Because that's what Eric was going to bring up as well. I'm curious as to how you're going to tee that up for me, Andy. Give me a little more deets.
Um, I'm not a host. I shouldn't pretend to be.
All right, fair enough. So as far as Sabine goes, Eric, I'll let you kind of tee up your misgivings to the extent that there are. Maybe I'm misrepresenting. We kind of had a brief talk off air when this thing came out, but you said you were going to watch it again and see if your takes crystallize. So what are your thoughts on the Sabine side of things?
Yeah, Ed, I'm even more resolute in my opinions. I thought maybe I was just being too reactionary. Maybe I was just being too emotional about it. Um, but uh, before we get to that, I just want to say I thought Ezra, the way Ezra's been handled in the last couple episodes, fantastic. Really super satisfied with him. But Sabine, like, I want to take Sabine to the woodshed. Like, I'm tired of Sabine getting a pass. I'm tired of Sabine, constantly screwing up and, basically being selfish and self-centered, and we all know what happens to the rest of the universe based off of her decisions now. But, I was
Do we?
annoyed. I was just going to use the word annoyed. I was very annoyed, um, almost like a parent looking at my kid who screwed up for the umpteenth time, doing exactly what I asked you not to do for the umpteenth time, and now all this bad stuff, has happened and is happening, and there are consequences for that, and um, I understand that they need. I believe I understand that they needed to do that to kind of reinforce Ahsoka's arc, because I think Ahsoka needed to come around and to be Ahsoka the White, not Ahsoka the Gray. And the way we do that is she needs to
Sure.
be patient and forgiving and accepting of Sabine and some of her impulsivity, and maybe some of her stubbornness. But the whole time I'm just like, will somebody please grab her, by the collar, and just sit her down and put her to the side. Just say, sit this one out. We got this. We don't need you screwing this up any more than you already have. So that's where I'm at with Sabine.
I love
Great
it.
actress. I thought she did a wonderful job.
No, yeah,
I think she's
for sure.
true to her character, true to her character from Rebels. But my God, how many more things can she screw up? I don't know. I don't have enough appendages. Hu Yang doesn't have enough appendages to count the number of things that Sabine has screwed up in eight episodes. I'll leave it
Yeah,
at
I
that.
mean, no, so it's interesting that, a second watch through crystallized your
Yeah.
take as opposed
Am I
to
more
anything
emotional in
else.
this? Am I more emotional in this conversation than I
It
was
caught
in
me
our
off
first
guard a
one?
little bit, just a little bit, yeah,
Okay.
just a little. But I'm not mad at it. It's we're trying to entertain here, so hot takes are make things nice and warm and cozy around the fire. So that's fine. We'll pull up a chair and let's get to popcorn. The thing I said to you on the phone, and I have similarly crystallized my take. So I'm excited to kind of air this one out. Is that Star Wars has a long history of young brash idiots being young brash idiots, right? And Sabine is but the last in a long history of Jedi that are engaging in that sort of behavior, right? Now, a lot of times things happen to work out, but if you take any of those moments, as a solitary incident, it's like, geez, Lou, what are we doing here? The thing I said to you was, I think that this is a very intentional parallel to C.S. Lewis and the Chronicles of Narnia. Obviously, with the title, right? Like, I'm not anybody's high-minded literary critic here. The title is called the Jedi, the Witch, and the
Which,
Warlord, right? So
yeah.
yeah, so um a parallel there to Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And in that story, for anyone who doesn't remember their elementary school book club, Edmund is this sort of headstrong, bratty little shit that goes through the wardrobe first, or no, second, and he meets with the witch, and she manipulates him, and he gives up all the intel. He gives the whole barn away, just everything. And later on, when the rest of the family finds out what's happened, they're righteously indignant, as one could expect. But Aslan, yeah, yeah, Eric, very, very much so. Righteously indignant, you should be. But Aslan, who's kind of the wise, sagely one, is the one who ends up forgiving Edmund, and he's kind of like, hey, I'm the one who's most aggrieved by what it is that you've done, and I'm choosing to take the high road and now make something of yourself now and rise above what you've done. Now, in the Star Wars angle, you kind of have another added wrinkle of the destiny angle, right? Of like, this was always the decision that she made. This was always her path, and the sort of predestination of the Force. And it's always been kind of a mixed bag on whether or not the degree to which you have control over your destiny, right? They've always played with those things. Of course you do, but then you have a path and all this, that, and the third. So it was very interesting to see Ahsoka very much choose to say, hey, Sabine's learned her lesson. Sabine knows she messed up. Sabine knows, yeah, you saw that, Andy. Sabine knows what happened, and she knows the score, and me berating her is not going to accomplish anything other than kind of settling the score just for me personally, right? What's done is done, the past is the past, and now we move. Um,
So
that's
Ed, if I could just ask you a quick question on that. So do you
Sure,
think
certainly.
then that do you think because it's titled the Jedi, right? And
Hmm.
Ahsoka has never been a Jedi,
That's right.
right? She's been a Padawan. She's a Force user, but she is even self-admittedly not a Jedi through most of her the latter half of her story arc through all the different mediums. So do you think that this was a part of her trials in the old Jedi sense, and that her getting to the point of being Sabine's master and taking on that role like Anakin did for her, do you think that that's indicative of her story arc kind of coming full circle again? So Sabine being Sabine, really facilitating more of the Ahsoka story arc.
So I'm kind of, as far as her taking up that mantle of Jedi, I am not sure. I think she's very emphatically been something different, but um yeah, her journey coming to a complete end, or that arc, that progression, I think is exactly the point of this show, which is why you saw Hayden appear as Anakin, that Force ghost, at the end. It's very much the same arc that Kenobi went on, getting to see Qui-Gon at the end of the Kenobi show, like, hey, you're ready, you've earned it, type deal. um yeah, very, very interesting stuff. Also, Jedi is plural, right? So it could be Ezra that the title's referring to. It could be Sabine. It could be all three. Who knows, right? Could even be Anakin. You never really know. But hey, Andy, we done talked. What do you think about this little dichotomy we got going on here?
So I'm gonna be honest, I brought that up because I wanted to hear what you guys thought about Sabine's use of the Force in this episode. I didn't, I wasn't actually expecting the critique of her character, but fair enough. That's something that I hadn't I hadn't noticed. But Eric's got his spray bottle filled with water. Bad, Sabine. Spray, spray, bad.
So what do you think of her use of the Force? Because you
I
know,
hated it.
yeah, yeah, I get it. You know, it's one of those things that it's like, yeah, we all saw it coming, but we hate to, you know, you know me, I've been consistent. I love normal people. Like I really
Yeah.
wanted a normal person, and to learn how to be a Jedi without the Force. I know that kind of goes in the face of the sort of mystical elements and all that. I understand, but yeah, definitely disappointed. It's the same feeling I got when they made Rey a Palpatine, right? I was really excited for her to just be a nobody that the Force chose to be this sort of opposite of Kylo Ren, you know. Disappointing for sure. But that being said, it was executed pretty well. I as much as I didn't want it to happen, I liked how they had so many fake outs this year, and then when she finally needed it to save her friends and atone for the mistake that you brought up, Eric, you know, that's when she made that connection and she used the Force to get Ezra home. So that was pretty cool. If it had to happen, I liked how they executed it. But I'm with you. I didn't want it to happen.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love the use in Rebels when Ezra and Kanan begin to work together more as a master and apprentice, and they do that same jump where they push each other, and it was really really cool to see in live action. And I enjoyed seeing Sabine, like you said, her change to stay behind with Ahsoka and send Ezra home. But I'm in agreement. I wanted her to be like me. I can't use the Force, but she's a
Right.
badass and she does all this cool stuff. She maybe trains to be a Jedi and doesn't even have the Force. I kind of got behind that too. I was like, okay, that could be cool on its own. But then, yeah, a little disappointed. I thought that it was cute when they were running in to first get to Thrawn and Ezra's using the Force to, I think, like keep the gate open. And Ahsoka says,
Mm-hmm.
Sabine, help. And she's like, and I'm like, that's me. I'm like, I'm trying my
Yeah.
best.
It's like the person like singing or lip syncing in the choir, right? It's like
Yeah,
you're not really singing, but you know, you're doing your best. That's great. Yeah.
yeah.
Um so Eric, what do you have any other thoughts to throw on the pile as far as Sabine using the Force? Were you a fan or not? Don't feel like you got to belabor the point if you agree with us, but what do you think?
I thought, you know, they opened up that storyline, and so I'm happy that they continued with it. I thought that maybe the jump in her abilities was a little extreme and
Sabine is a
therefore
Mary Sue.
unbelievable.
Sabine is a Mary Sue.
You know, so
I'm with you though.
yeah, you know, being able to summon the lightsaber to her hand, okay, but force supporting Ezra in the air onto the Star Destroyer. I was like, that's a little much for me. So, but this is the path that they set 7 episodes ago. So you know what, we're on it. Let's see where they go with it.
Yep.
All you
Yep.
can ask is that they keep it relatively reasonable and believable. And maybe in this episode, it got a little far fetched too quickly. Would
Yeah,
be my
no,
opinion.
I'm with you. It was one of those. It wasn't my favorite part for sure. But I'm interested to see where it goes as far as that angle. One little quick note about a side thing. I'm very glad that the rat dogs survived. Our howlers, they're still kicking at the end. You know, they're continuing on. When they were running across the field, I knew all the characters were going to survive that bombardment, but I was like, they're going to kill one of these freaking dogs. I know it. And they're all going to have to run the rest of the way. Then I was very relieved when none of the rat dogs were impeded by that orbital bombardment. Let's move on now to clean up some of the side characters. I know we get Balin and Shin in the epilogue, but they didn't really have much to do here, so we'll deal with them later when we talk about the future of Star Wars. Anything of note for you guys on the side characters, be it Enoch or the Noti or any of those folks? I'll start with you, Eric.
No, I don't think so. I mean, they were so much in the background. I did, to me they were window dressing.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, they were there. They didn't substantively add anything to the episodes. They
Sure.
were just there like a prop, in my opinion. So no, I don't. I thought I didn't think there was anything remarkable about this episode as compared to any other in the series.
Fair enough. Andy, any of the side characters speak to you in any appreciable way outside of Thrawn or Balin or Shin?
Not particularly. Um, what does Ezra say when he's driving the little thing? He's like wampa wampa when he's
Yeah,
talking
whoopa
to
whoopa.
whoopa whoopa.
Yeah. Yep,
That was
yep.
that's it.
I think that's what you texted me, Eric, right? Like after the finale, you're just like whoopa whoopa.
It was. I definitely texted you when Ezra threw a photo or something at him when they were when the first time they were escaping in the in the little turtle buggies.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Little armadillo cars.
yeah, he dropped a couple of lines like that, that made me chuckle. But
Because it's so
Yeah.
Ezra.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Tuk tuk whoopa
I think I
whoopa
said I think
arriba.
Ezra's been a great addition. He's been. I think his contributions to dialogue, conversation, and to scene have been, kind of right on the money. His being there carries all the weight of it, and I think he just brings a levity, but a strength to every
Certainly.
scenario that he's in with the other characters. So, um, I was worried that maybe we get Ezra, shoved down our throats, but that wasn't the case. It's been more Sabine shoved down our throats.
Mm. Either way,
Just
there
kidding,
there's
just kidding.
there was definitely our throats were obstructed either way. Anyway, let's move along to the main character I've left on the Christmas tree. The last apple to pluck is Grand Admiral Thrawn. What did we think of Thrawn in this finale, and what do we see for the future of everyone's favorite Chiss? I speak for everyone because I am the Lorax. Andy, what do you think of Thrawn?
I thought he was fine. He didn't
Like
like super
Fine, fine, because yes.
um he didn't necessarily wow me this season as a whole. Maybe I'm being too harsh, but um I just I wasn't super shocked by anything or super impressed by anything. Not to say it's not cool, just that he's there. He does have a presence. He is he's cooking and I'm gonna let him cook.
Exactly. And I'm with you 100%. That's why I pitched throughout this, and I know I'm not the only one to do so. I was really hoping that we'd get to see him kind of kick some ass when he comes back to the normal galaxy. I didn't think that would be just like a thing in the epilogue. I was hoping to see that Rebel fleet be there, and I was so that way there is a tangible reason to fear him, because all we've seen so far is that he values his troops' lives, and he is not underprepared relative to other commanders we've seen. He's not incompetent or overconfident, and while that can certainly make him a cut above all other generals, it's not enough to set him apart as somebody that is as truly fearsome as he is. Eric, do you share those sentiments, or were there any? What are your thoughts on Thrawn? We haven't had you on the pod in a while, so what do you think of his
Yeah,
characterization in general and all of it?
I thought Thrawn has been expertly delivered, throughout the series, and I mean, but that's the thing. I mean, you're never gonna get emotional Thrawn. He's never too high, never too low. Just methodical, logical, like very, he's not textbook, right? Because he definitely thinks outside the box, but he's just very purposeful, very measured. And so, I mean, the Thrawn in live action versus the Thrawn, that you read about in the books versus the Thrawn that was in the animated series. Thrawn is Thrawn, and I mean, you just kind of wait. Is this going to be the moment where all of a sudden his brilliance and his genius is on full display before us, vice just being in this constant, we're in this constant preparatory mode with him, or we're in this
Yeah.
constant, like, you know, we're we're just in the early phases of things. Like, he's got this grand plan yet, and we don't exactly know how. We know what happens, but we don't exactly know how we get there. But we feel like we're just still like in the reading the table of contents, and in a much larger
Yeah,
story, I
yeah.
think.
So you said that twice, and I'm curious. I didn't drill down the first time. I'm curious. You say we know what happens. Um, what do you mean by that? Are you saying that? Are you of the mindset that Thrawn is tied to the First Order, or are you of the mindset that we know what happens, being that he's a non-issue by the time of the sequel trilogy, or is it a mixture of both?
I think it's a mixture of both. Obviously, we know that the Empire transitions either in whole or in part,
Hmm.
into the First Order, and obviously Thrawn is at the center of that, because otherwise the other Imperial Remnant warlords would have done that already. So they need Thrawn to, I think, help make most of that happen. And again, like I said, whether it's only a whole or in part thing, I think that we all we haven't seen it displayed yet. We haven't seen it realized before our eyes, but we all know that there's going to be a coming together of the remnant. They're going to, reassert themselves against the New Republic, who will be found woefully ill prepared. And then there will be this. They will begin that slow, steady process of, you know the three parties interacting. Right, you have what eventually is the First Order, you have the New Republic, and then you have the Resistance. And but that all comes about. I think that dynamic all comes about only because Thrawn is what propels that forward.
So that's very interesting. And I could be totally wrong on this, but I think I thoroughly disagree. I think it's going in a different direction. I think that, so knowing what we know about Thrawn and knowing what we know about what the First Order is, I think he wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. My understanding of what's happening here is that Thrawn is going to come back, rally the troops, create his own sort of effort. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see Brendel Hux and the sort of First Order beginnings peel off the Project Necromancer type stuff and bringing Palpatine back, because that's not Thrawn's. He's not about Sidious. He never really cared for the Emperor. It's more the system and the military might. So all the mystical stuff. I mean, he's allying with the witches out of necessity. I think he's very much not a fan of what's going on there. Um, I would I would postulate, I would think that what we're gonna see is Thrawn's gonna hit the New Republic and really take them within an inch of their life, and they're going to retreat all the way back to the core worlds and really have very limited presence. And that's kind of what we're going to see. That's where we're going to find the galaxy when the First Order does come about, and that's
Yeah,
why they were so hilariously weak and able to be destroyed by Starkiller Base. That's my
but
thought.
Ed hit them with what? His one Star Destroyer, which is, it may have a cool paint scheme on it, but it's still just a basic Star Destroyer. Oh, by the way, that's been substantially damaged. So, all the Mon Cal cruisers, all the New Republic ships. I mean, my point is that, um, Thrawn, where is Thrawn going to get the military resources in
Hmm.
order to substantially deliver a blow? Maybe not the crippling blow, but the blow that sets the New Republic back. It's just not going to be the Chimera.
No, 100%. Yeah, and it's
Okay.
gonna come from the Imperial Remnant for sure. But
Hmm.
I'm saying that Shadow Council that we saw has a bunch of warlords, has Gideon, has Brendel Hux, and has a few other folks. We've still got a contingent that is probably going to, Thrawn's going to probably rally a lot of these people, probably assert dominance over a few, probably kill off a couple, subjugate some, bring everybody together. and then you're probably going to see the faction of Brendel Hux and anyone tied to Exegol and the first/final order, all that stuff. They're gonna peel off at some point, and I bet that's why when this resolves itself, however it does, that's why the New Republic is going to be so overconfident, because they think they've solved all this stuff, and they're beaten back pretty badly, and that's why the final order faction, or the Palpatine faction, Exegol, is going to be able to cook as long as they want to, unimpeded. That's my thought. We'll see how
I
it
love it.
goes. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I
again,
don't presume to have the answer. I just have my thoughts about it, and I'm glad that we can bat that back and forth.
yeah, absolutely. And again, that's not, like I said, I could very much be wrong. They could go in a totally different direction. There's no doubt about that. Andy, what do you think as far as Thrawn's campaign and where we're going? He's back at Dathomir at the end of this. Where do you think it's going? Do you have anything you want to throw out, or are you just happy to be along for the ride like the rest of us?
Wompa wompa. I'm just here. I'm just enjoying it. I don't have a single clue where we're going, but I'm here for the ride.
Isn't it great, man? Like, just genuinely, I don't want to have that be lost on us. Like, it is so fun to be in a spot again where we're speculating and we have no idea. We have no idea what's going to happen. It's freaking awesome, man. I want to say one thing. I'm disappointed that that Taylor couldn't be here tonight, because I have a half baked theory here, and I really wanted her input. So Taylor, if you're watching, I'd love to get your comments on this. Throw it in the Discord, and we'll discuss. But so in the Thrawn trilogy in Legends, there's a subplot. One of the armies that Thrawn uses, one of the things he has is access to this race of people called the Nogri. And the Nogri, they were in Rebels. You had Ruch, the sort of assassin, right? Um, and so they're highly trained. They're Thrawn's bodyguards. And basically, what had happened in this story is that they're a very loyal race of people. They have a very loyal warrior culture, and they swore themselves to Darth Vader because Vader was viewed by them as their sort of savior, because their planet had undergone some plague during the Clone Wars. They thought it was like the Separatists that had done it, and the Empire supplied these droids that were helping them grow crops. And so in effort to in thanks for those droids, they pledged their fealty to Darth Vader. So later on in the story, Leia finds herself there, and Leia is, of course, Darth Vader's daughter, so she says that, and they call her the Malariush and all this sort of stuff. And Leia ends up realizing that the Empire has been deceiving them. The Empire has been lying to them. They are poisoning the fields with these droids that are supposedly helping. And so, of course, the Nogri are none too pleased, and the Nogri are the ones that end up defeating Thrawn in a way that he wouldn't have predicted, and that's how Thrawn is able to lose without ever losing a battle, right? Ever being defeated tactically. So my thought is the Night Sisters could very likely play a Nogri-esque role in this story, because the Night Sisters hate the Jedi, and they were assassinated by the Sith and the Separatists. They had all that war with Count Dooku and General Grievous and all of this. Darth Sidious, the main mastermind, and all the Sith and all this sort of stuff. Well, now the Empire is a different faction in their mind, more than likely, right? Like, the Empire is no fan of Dathomir, but they're not the ones that massacred them and this, that, and the third. They don't probably see them as the same regime. They may not know that they were on both sides of the conflict and this, that, and the other. I'm wondering if Thrawn is going to use them and have them as his sort of lackeys and henchmen, as it were, and then they're going to find that out via Ahsoka or some other character that, hey, they were on both sides of this thing, and the Empire, and they're not your friends. They they've been manipulating this from the beginning, and then maybe they'll switch sides. Am I crazy? What do you guys think about that? I'll start with you, Andy, and then you guys can let me know what you think.
That that sounds like a super fascinating theory. I haven't read any of the Thrawn books, so I was intrigued to listen to that, and the story and Leia plays a part in the story. I'm like, wow,
Very
I need
big
to get
part.
onto I need to read
Very
these
big part.
books.
They're very good books. They're amazing. Yeah.
Um, the Nogri you said, this was
Hmm.
the guy at the end of Rebels. Am I thinking
Correct.
of?
Yeah, the little bodyguard guy that was hunting Kanan and stuff. The little
Oh,
little little
I
guy. Yeah.
just I just hated that nasty little guy. I don't know how we would see them in live action, but I'd be excited to. That'd be cool.
Yeah, very interesting. Eric, what do you think? Again, I'm not saying it's ironclad, but it's just that's where I'm kicking around right now.
No, I think if along your lines, if Thrawn's going to be defeated in some way, shape, or form, then we've probably, whether we know it or not, we've probably already been exposed to whatever the vehicle that will deliver his defeat's going to be, and
Mm.
it's just going to develop itself over time. So it would make sense in your theory that maybe the Night Sisters represent a comparable capability for story that the Nogri played in the books. So
I mean,
I mean,
again,
it's plausible. I could see it. I hadn't thought about any of that yet. So, but
yeah, fair enough.
I'm not a Thrawn knight like you. So,
And it's
um,
not a one-to-one because some of the things I'm thinking about, like the Nogri didn't have any kind of supernatural ability to see other events in the galaxy. They're not, they don't have the sort of vision with the Force that the Night Sisters do. So they're probably easier to dupe than the Night Sisters are. But you never know how they would reconcile that, how they'd resolve it. Palpatine and the Empire are pretty good at manipulating things themselves, so who knows? Like I said, not an ironclad thing, but I was very intrigued by that sort of parallel. And Taylor, I would welcome your opinion as well, yay or nay. I'd love to hear it. All right, so we've got a few minutes left. Let's dive into the epilogue here, and I really want to. This is where we're at, man. Like Star Wars is in a really cool place because we don't know anything, and it's really really exciting. It's been a hell of a ride. I've been very very grateful for this experience. This was so fun to get back to the high fantasy side of Star Wars. But the epilogue shows us Shin with the sort of bandits. I don't think there's a whole ton to unpack there, other than that she's got some new friends and she's trying to wreak some havoc. But Balin being very interesting, ending with him looking off into the distance on this light shining, very Lord of the Rings esque, and he's standing on giant statues of the father, and then to his side is a statue of the son, and then there's a destroyed, demolished statue of the daughter. What do you guys think is going on? What is Balin after? We're left wondering. Does anyone have any guesses, thoughts? And I'll start with you, Andy.
I have thoughts, but let's start with Eric.
Okay.
oh man,
Uno reverse
I
card.
I needed the extra time to get my thoughts together. So,
I think Andy did
like,
too. You guys want me to talk more about Thrawn?
no. Well, we're good on Thrawn. If I
Yeah.
have to hear For the Empire one more time from Thrawn, I might punch the wall. But no, I mean, I just felt nothing but remorse and sadness and grief for Shin. I don't think she wanted to go back to the band of marauders, but I feel like she's the great wild card now in this whole series. Like everyone else is on a path. I think there's some predictability with everybody else. Every other character that had a role that's still around. But Shin's kind of like Shin's this amazing force user. Does that just get lost in the universe in a separate galaxy, or does she have a greater destiny? But my heart broke for her when I saw her, cresting the hill and like, she didn't just stroll into camp like she belonged, right? She signaled, and maybe it was to figure out like, can I go there or not? So, very
Hmm.
much as a child who's been abandoned, by her master, which she was, which kind of shows another aspect to Balin. But um, I went back and watched the Mortis arc in Clone Wars today,
Hey.
and um, looking at that. I mean, that light in the distance above what looks to be a mountaintop looked just like the lights illuminated above the castle and the fortress where the father
It
resided.
shows she
There was
did.
light. There was different colored lights above the different houses or castles, if you will, of the father, the son, and the daughter. But we know that they're all gone now. So I mean, the only one that would leave left is possibly Abeloth. Um, and is this where she's taking up residence? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just theorizing. I'm pulling at straws here because I have nothing else to work off of because I did a great job of pushing me off the cliff on the cliffhanger. But but
So
I
listen,
think Balin's there with purpose, right? I think
100%.
like they're. I mean, you look at him, and I think he doesn't really ever give much away, but I really feel like he's not lost. I think he's very comfortable with where he's at on the timeline that he's there. Um, to hopefully discover what he's been searching for all this time.
And look, when we talked, you brought up Abeloth. When we talked, I kind of went down the rabbit hole of who that is, and you know, there's a lot of things I don't know that I want, right? Like, there's a lot of stuff. It's so weird. It's so intense. Andy, I was talking with you about Abeloth as well. Um, I don't know that I want her to show up, but it would not surprise me at this point. Like, everything is on the table given what we've seen. Star Wars can get weird. We're dealing with Mortis and the world between worlds and all this stuff. Very, very, very little would surprise me at this point. Um, I'm just generally supremely intrigued with Balin and the call outs to Mortis. I won't I won't belabor the point. Abeloth, for the uninitiated, is a genuinely horrifying creature that is a celestial, became a celestial like the father, the son, and the daughter, and is just uh horrifying. She has this giant Cheshire smile and these black eyes with these tiny pinpricks of light, not unlike the way the green eyes showed up on the Death Troopers, I might add. But and she is just driven to possess. She consumes entities, people, particularly Force users. And she has this. She tried to fill the role of the mother in those that sort of celestial dynamic, and this was entirely in Legends. They could leave it the hell alone and not touch it at all. But if they did, genuinely horrifying stuff, and it would be very, very weird. They could go in a completely different direction as well, and that would not surprise me at all. Um, does anyone have any final thoughts they want to leave for this show? Where do you think it's going? What are you most excited about? And well, hey, let's do this. What did you guys think of
Well, if I could,
Ahsoka
I mean,
at the
Ed,
end
we
of
didn't,
the
we didn't, we didn't
Ahsoka
give
show?
Andy a chance. Ed, we didn't give Andy a chance to give us her final thoughts on Shin and on Balin.
Oh, I started it with her and she kicked it over. You're right. Yeah, let's go back and see what she did with all of that time that I gave her talking about yet another extraneous Legends character. What do you think, Andy? Thank
Um,
you, Eric.
yes, thank you, Eric. And I want to agree with Eric's take on Shin. It was really heartbreaking to see. I was thoroughly disappointed with how Balin abandoned Shin. Um, and it kind of made me look at his character a little differently and look at her character differently. I love the moment. I don't think it's the last episode, maybe the episode before last, when Ahsoka tries to invite Shin, kind of adopt her into
Hmm.
her posse. Another cat reference. She pss, 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 and Shin scurries in the opposite direction. Um, and that doesn't surprise me much at all. But I agree that it was sad to see. Balin, I I unfortunately I don't really have any thought-provoking theories. It was more interesting to listen to what you guys discussed, and that's why I handed it over. I handed over the mic because I'm not sure. I do want to shout out Morai. We saw Morai in live action. Um, yeah, that's about it.
That you're exactly right. Yeah, it was awesome. I like to see more eye, and again, it's just like it's all on the table. We're getting everything. And I want to shout out Sweet and Simple 05 for chatting. I missed your comments earlier, my friend. I apologize. Yeah, the Death Troopers, they did seem a bit like an army of convenience. That is fair, and very valid. Very much like zombies ex machina type deal. Fair enough. Um, but yeah, what do you guys think about Ahsoka in this show? Was she handled well? We got to see her kind of come to that conclusion that we talked about with Anakin. Um, how do you feel? What are your final thoughts on Ahsoka, the series broadly, and do you think we're going to see a direct continuation of these events in Skeleton Crew, which is slated to come out either this year or next? Eric, you first.
Absolutely. I was I thought Ahsoka was handled very well. Rosario Dawson killed it again, delivered beyond expectations. So kudos to
Yeah.
her. Grateful to her. Grateful to Filoni, Dave Filoni for enriching us with her story and her arc. Just amazing things to see in live action. Um, Certainly, obviously, she and Sabine, I don't see just being stranded on Paradia, forever and eternity. But I think maybe future series will focus more on what's going on in the galaxy far, far away that we're used to, not the galaxy far, far away that we just learned about. So, yeah, I think I'm interested to see, obviously there has to be a considerable amount of time spent in how they escape that galaxy, which, took someone like Thrawn, you know, a lot of time to he himself escape. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. Maybe this is where Balin comes in and, finding whatever that essence is that's that concentration of force power. Maybe that's the way in which they figure out a way to, escape the confines of the planetary prison they now find themselves on.
Absolutely. I'm very curious to see how it all ties in, how they're going to get back, because I don't think they're going to go back to the well of space whales and all this sort of stuff. I really don't. I don't see that happening. So, is it going to involve Mortis? Is it going to involve Morai? I'm sure. I'm sure we'll get to find out. Andy, same question to you. Ahsoka finale, all this goodness. What do you think, and where do you think it's going?
Hmm. I again, I'll reiterate, I just have no idea. I have no idea where we're going from here. But it was a ride I was happy to be on. Um, I will say, as far as Ahsoka's character, um, and just overall positive notes, overall love the season. But there's a certain depth that I feel like I never got from Ahsoka, and that's not to slight Rosario Dawson or I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but there was a certain depth that I guess I was hoping for that I didn't necessarily see come to fruition. Um, and maybe the show is due for a rewatch for me. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, that's intriguing. There's always more on the bone. I'm excited to see if we dive in more in the future. What kind of depth do you think you have in mind? Like, what would you want more of? What was kind of missing? What aspects of the depth, if you can
I
elaborate?
don't I don't know. It's maybe and maybe it's just the transition from animation to live action. But I to compare to a show like Andor, I feel like we see the characters develop so much,
Mm,
demonstrate such vulnerability and such growth that I'm not going to say was completely lacking in Ahsoka's character,
sure.
but just maybe left me wanting more a little bit. And there was, like we've mentioned before, so much to address in this season where our attention is pulled in so many different directions.
Yeah.
So that probably contributed to it. Again, just my opinion.
Yeah,
No,
fair
Andy,
enough.
I
Eric,
think
you got
I think
something to
that's a
say?
great observation. I was just going to say just what you were. I mean, I think that she was on the Obi-Wan story arc that was in Kenobi, right? You know, I think there's her the character of Kenobi and his series is similar to the development of Ahsoka in her series, where they go from being something less than they're capable, something less than maybe they were always envisioned to be. And then through the course of the different episodes and the different trials that they go through, they rediscover themselves again and who they truly are. And so I saw some parallels to the way they handled Ahsoka to the way that they handled Kenobi. I thought that there was a lot of common ground there, at least in the way we watched the characters, come back around after being forced to face some of the most difficult things that they could possibly face in their own existences. They somehow were able to overcome that. I think that's at least that's what I took away from it. I don't know if that's what was actually happened or not, but that's the parallel that I saw.
Yeah, I
Sorry, I
can
didn't
see
mean to
that.
cut you off.
No, no, not at all. That's I'm glad we were able to dive into that a little bit more. Yeah, it's very interesting. I agree. A lot of the sentiment that I'm left with at the end of this show is just there's nothing negative that I have to say generally other than I just wish we got so much more. It's like when you go to a really really fancy restaurant and every bite of your meal tastes amazing, but you're not as full as if you had just gone to like In and Out, and you got just like a ton of food. The quality was great, but it's like I really, really wish I had more to eat. And it's a great little soundbite there. But yeah, it's very much that sort of thing. I wish there was more. Um, the last thing I want to say is I would imagine I saw this synopsis of the Skeleton Crew, which is the next show that's supposed to come out. It's the one with Jude Law and the kids. It's supposed to involve pirates with some of the scuttlebutt that people were saying. Um, the synopsis says this series follows four young characters who discover a secret on their home planet and are thrust into a dangerous galaxy, setting up an exciting standalone odyssey with potential connections to future Star Wars films. So I don't know what that means, but now we're dealing with a separate galaxy. So who knows? Who knows where these little kiddos are going to find themselves? Maybe they get ate by a purrgil. You never know, right? Well, it could be very, very interesting, and I'm intrigued to see how it connects because when all this stuff was announced, we were all like, "What the hell are they doing? They're just doing grape shot on Star Wars, and it's everywhere." You got 25,000 years ago, and then you've got Thrawn and the Acolyte. How does all this stuff connect? What's Jude Law doing? And now suddenly it's all kind of falling into place a little bit, right? Like you can see it if you squint, and so I'm very intrigued to see where we go. Anybody got any final thoughts to leave the people with before we move on? Andy, you first, then Eric. You shake your head. No, okay. So Andy, no final thoughts. You yield the floor. Eric, you got any final thoughts you want to leave the people with?
No, just feeling very fulfilled right now. Grateful and fulfilled.
Nice.
And yeah, looking forward. I guess in our next podcast episode, we'll be taking a look at the series as a whole and providing maybe some larger streams of consciousness there. Looking forward to that conversation very much. But I just tell you, I'm just happy to be alive. I'm happy I'm in alive in a time when I can enjoy all of this
Amen.
rich, all these new rich features and content that builds upon Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely.
True that.
I couldn't agree more. And yeah, I was definitely excited to say that we are going to have a season review at some point. That's the next bit of content you can expect from us, and hopefully we'll have the rest of the gang here. And it'll probably be a longer discussion. Truthfully, we know how it is when we get 4 or 5 people together, especially. Michael B always got his notes. Michael B always has notes, and so I'm very excited to see how that goes, and we'll do a full season review, and then we will get back into the more or I'll say less structured content that you expected from us before. A little book club here, a little interview there. We'll talk about a bunch of different things to fill that void while we wait for Skeleton Crew, the Acolyte, and all the other goodies that they have coming down the pipeline. Thank you all for being with us. This has been a treat and a half, and I can't wait to see you next time on program.
On program.
Thanks for hanging out, guys. This was a lot of fun. This whole series has been fun. It's taken us to hotel rooms, and it's taken us to the studio. We've had groups of 1, 2, 3, 4, count them, 5 people here. It was a blast. So you know what? You could do me a favor. Leave us a like. It's not that hard. It's free. You know, do that. That'd mean a lot. Subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the good places, you know, that you look for stuff. You know, that'd be nice. And we'll see you next time on program.
On program.